to another up close video. So today's video is another Arteza one looking at the brand new iridescent acrylic colours of paint. There are 10 colours in the paint set. They're a gorgeous little collection of paints, and they are all that iridescent sort of finish, so that if you use them on white or black you get different colours showing through, or as you tilt them in the light the like micro reflections in them kind of change. But before I get on to showing you in detail about these gorgeous paints, there's just a couple of bits and pieces that I wanted to let you know. So there's a couple of things I wanted to mention. Currently, from now until the 11th of April 2020, if you go over to the Arteza YouTube channel or click on the link to their video that will be in the description box below this video, they are currently running a competition where there'll be 2 winners, and they're both in the running to win a $100 gift voucher to the Arteza website. So you could buy, you could put it towards a larger item, or you could buy loads of their different products that they do, like buying sort of like the pack of 1 sketchbooks that they do, the smaller packs, maybe like the 24 pack of real brush pens, the gouache, the watercolours, you know, and really get yourself a selection if you won one of the vouchers. And you have to go to their video to enter, but I just wanted to tell you or let you know about the competition, because I mean, what a great competition to enter. Who wouldn't want to win $100 of vouchers? And all you have to do to enter is on their video, not this one, on their video, you have to leave a comment saying why you should get the prize. And you also need to make sure you're subscribed to the Arteza YouTube channel, because they will be announcing the winner in one of their videos. So if you're subscribed, you shouldn't miss the video where they announce the winners, and that's running from right now until the 11th of April 2020. So I'll make sure the link to the video is in the description, so you can easily get over to their channel and watch their giveaway video, and then leave your comment below their video to enter this lovely giveaway. And I also wanted to mention, I have another code again, so if you're interested in any of the Arteza products I show in this video, or any of the ones I've shown before, or just anything off of their website, you can use my affiliate links below the video, along with the code CRaFTi Potential 4, which I'll make sure is the absolute first thing in the description box, so you can easily copy and paste it, because I'm still not sure whether it's case sensitive or not, but I'll leave it as the first thing in the description, so all you have to do is copy and then paste it at the checkout when you've got everything in your basket on the Arteza website, and that will give you 10% off your order, and it's valid until the 30th of April 2020, so you've got a good month to make use of that code. I just think having an extra 10% off is so generous of Arteza to give me a 10% off code to pass on to you, but just a great way to save an extra few pennies or pounds on anything that you want to order to have a play with. And also, if this is the first of my videos that you're seeing, or maybe the first one of an Arteza video of mine that you're seeing, I actually have a playlist on my channel that's just called Arteza. If you go and have a look at that, you can see all of the other products that I have like done an up close look at over the past 6 or 7, no, maybe it's more than that now, probably like 8 or 9 months now. But yeah, there's loads of products that I've shown an up close look of, and you'll see them popping up in all of my videos as well. So I will get back on to showing you what this video is supposed to be. Okay, so back to the iridescent acrylic colours. I really like the way the little set comes in a lovely little box, which is perfect. You can store it anywhere you like on your shelf, and you're still going to be able to see what it is, which is really nice. You could have it front on if you have skinny shelves. You can have it this way if your shelves are deeper. You could even put it up like this if you want to. So I really do love their packaging. They really do think about making it easy for you to store their products as well. And it's a really sturdy box too. And it has all of the colours on the top of the box as well. So there are 10 different colours in this set of iridescent acrylic colours. I've not actually seen any paints like this before. I thought they were going to be really similar to the Pebeo Diner paints, but they are actually different. They are really stunning though, and there are 10 different colours, and you have a perfect rainbow in here as well, which is brilliant, and I'll show it on one of the little samples that I've been playing with. But you get dreamy lemon yellow, shady orange, fiery red, glowing peach, playful pink, royal purple, electric plum purple, fairy tale blue, shocking lime green, and fancy black as well. So you've got a really good spectrum of colours, a gorgeous complete rainbow, and then you've got the gorgeous goldy black, and then the pinky white kind of a tone as well. So let's open up the box. And you can see here, I've actually swatched all of mine on the top of the bottle because they're iridescent colours, so they kind of look, or they show up their different types of mica that is in them on different surfaces. So for example, black and white, they show up different colours really. So if you're looking just at the bottles as they are, this is the kind of colour you will see on white, and then you'll see as you tilt it in the light, you'll get that sort of reflection of the iridescent colour. But I decided to swatch on the lid. Actually, all I was doing is when they come, you get a little white seal over the top of this. All I did was rip that off. It had some excess paint on it, so then I just pressed it onto the top of the lid to get the paint on the lid. You could do it neater if you wanted to, but I just thought I didn't want to waste that paint that was on the little seal, so I just squished it onto the top of the lid. And doing that, adding it to the top of the lid, it kind of shows you or gives you an instant representation of how that colour is going to look when you use it on a black or a dark coloured card. So for example, this one is the playful pink, but if you look at it from here, it looks like it's a white paint, but if you look on the lid, you can really see that pink mica coming through as well. You can maybe you can't quite see it on the camera. In real life you can see a tiny hint of the pink in the white, but when you add it to the black, you can really see the mica colour that is in there. And with the fancy black as well, actually from the bottle with the fancy black, you can really see that gorgeous gold mica that is in there, and you can again see how it appears on black as well. And then I mean, all the other colours, some of them are quite different from like the colour. For example, this one, it's kind of a bluey purple kind of a colour, but when you put it on black, you can really see this gold kind of mica that's in it. So some of them have a really different kind of mica that's in them, or some of them have a like a complementary colour of mica. So for example, this bright yellow one called Dreamy Lemon Yellow, if you tilt it and see the mica, you've got like an orangey mica in that one. And let's show this one. This is an orangey colour, the shady orange. It has almost a red kind of mica in that one as well. So some of them are maybe more of a dramatic different colour because they've got a goldy kind of mica in them, and some of them are more analogous kind of colour mica inside the paint as well. I've really been enjoying working with these though, and it's quite nice to just have 10 colours as well, because you don't find yourself putting too many colours onto the project that you're working with. And if you have seen the Arteza pouring acrylics, or I think they do outdoor acrylic paints, fabric paints, and the tempera paints, and also the craft acrylic paints as well now, I think these are the only ones that have a rounded shoulder on them. I think all of the other bottles have a square shoulder, so you can easily distinguish them from the rest of your Arteza acrylic paints if you have any of the other ones, because they've got a lovely rounded shoulder on them. You get, how much do you get in them? You get 60ml in them, so they're a really nice, decent sized bottle. I mean, you can see on screen the decent size of them, and the base of them is about a 1.25 inch diameter, or centimetre wise, about 3 centimetre diameter. So, you know, for a size reference, that's the kind of size of the bottle. I've got tons of different examples and little bits of pieces that I've been playing with to show you some applications of these paints and kind of the different effects that you can get with them as well. And they work really, really nicely with the Arteza acrylic paints, the ones that I've done an up-close video on before. So I actually put them in separate little bags, the colours that I'd been using with these, so I could tell you the exact colours when I show you my other little samples as well. But I'll just go through the colours now actually. So I went through the 60 set of Arteza acrylics and I only took out flat colours, so none of the mica-y ones, because I wanted the mica and the iridescentness from these to really shine through. When I was using them on the jelly plate, this is how I was kind of using them, because sometimes just using mica-y stuff is like too much and you need some kind of matte paint, or if you didn't have any other paints and you invested in these, you could even do it on top of a distress ink kind of background or a spray ink background or something as well. But I quite like to mix like a metallic-y acrylic paint with a flat acrylic paint, so I just picked out a rainbow of colours that I was using with these paints. So for anybody who's really interested in the colours that I'd been using together and that I found worked really nicely, I used titanium white, and then I was using a bit of Mars Black and Payne's Grey so that I could get some sort of darker tones on my papers, so that then the other mica kind of shift would show up on whatever I was jelly printing. And then for my whole rainbow I was using carmine red, orange yellow, mid yellow, yellow green, and then sky blue, phthalo blue, mauve pale, violet and magenta light, and I found that those colours worked really, really nicely with the 10 iridescent colours as well. So I'm just going to sort out all the little bits and pieces that I've got to show you, and I'll be back in 1 second. Okay, so I'm sure you can tell by the sheer volume of bits and pieces that I've currently got on my desk how much I was enjoying playing with these. I think this was a couple of afternoons of playing that I created all these bits and pieces in. So these were some of the first ones that I was playing with, and what I did was I took a couple of Woodware stamps, these two different ones, this gorgeous collage-y rose, and then this one with the sort of film tape around it as well, and I used the this one, VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink, so that I got a really nice dark black impression onto my pieces of card, and these are just 1/4 of an A4 sheet. And the reason why I did this is because I wanted to try and get across, or to show myself, a kind of overall bigger piece of having the paint onto white and black on the same thing, if you know what I mean. So I was using the jelly plate and I went through and I did one of every colour, using or doing it on top of one of these stamped images to show the sort of colour variation of the mica when it goes over the black colour. So these are the 10, there should be 10. Yeah, the 10 that I've done, and I'll show you them all up close. And I've used kind of different, this was on the jelly plate, I don't know if I just said that, I used kind of different textures and stuff to press into them, and on some of them you can see where the ink from the previous one sort of clung to the jelly plate and stuff, so some of them look a little bit more grungy than others, and some of them have got a little bit of contamination with the other colours as well, because I didn't completely clean the plate between the colours. But I think that adds to the kind of the charm of these kind of backgrounds as well. And on some of them you can see that the black is kind of a bit more obliterated because I'd used maybe a thicker layer of paint on the jelly plate. So this is, I'll try and tell you the names as we go along. So this is the Shocking Lime Green colour, and you can see how gorgeous that looks. You can kind of see, it kind of has a goldy, sort of maybe orangey mica look when it's on the black. Just on here you can kind of see it. It is a little bit difficult to show you on camera. In person it's really noticeable, this kind of difference in the interference colours that are in there. So that is the Shocking Lime Green, and then we've got the yellow, which is Dreamy Lemon Yellow, and you can see that gorgeous gold mica is showing up on the roses. And this one you can see, I think, that I've used bubble wrap in this one. You can see that sort of distressed circular design. So all I did was press a piece of bubble wrap onto the jelly plate before I took the print of the colour, and you get that gorgeous texture. But I mean, this card looks like you spent quite a long time creating it, but literally it took seconds to stamp the image on there, and then seconds to brayer out the paint, press a piece of bubble wrap in, press the card on and rip it off. So I really do love that about acrylic paints and on the jelly plate, that you can really get really cool looks with hardly any effort at all. And using these gorgeous iridescent colours, it looks like you've done some complicated process to get a different colour showing on the black areas of the image as well. So it just adds something different to your cards. Or you could use this in art journals as well. Then we have this colour, which is, I think I had a little bit of the green contaminating this one, but I'm pretty sure it's the Fairy Tale Blue that I've used on this one. It's kind of turned a minty blue because of having a bit of green left on the jelly plate, but you can kind of get a shot of that purpley mica that's on the black areas in this one. And then we have the next one, which is the Royal Purple, and you can really see that gold mica coming across on the flowers on this one. And this was actually really large bubble wrap. This is that big kind of bubble wrap, and to get it to be really nice and crinkly, it's actually a piece that I've popped all the bubbles on. So using large bubble wrap but already popping all the bubbles gives you that gorgeous creased, really creased kind of effect. Then this one is, let me double check, yeah, this one is the Electric Plum Purple. You can, yeah, just over here you can see that different mica showing through on the black there. Really gorgeous. And this one I used a stencil on there. I brayered the ink onto, or the paint onto the jelly plate, put a stencil on top, used a piece of scrap paper to pick off all the excess, took off the stencil and then placed my stamped image on top of that to get that kind of a look. Then this one is the Glowing Peach colour. And you can see that it's also got that gold mica in it, which really shows up on the roses again. And this was actually some stamps I'd got ages and ages ago that are this sort of concentric circles inside each other, and all I did was stamp that all over the jelly plate and then took the print from it. So it's similar to using the bubble wrap, but it's just a stamp that you might have, I'm sure you'll have loads of stamps in your stash, and you can just press them into the jelly plate to get that cool texture. Then this one is the orange, which is Shady Orange, and this is actually, I'm sure you can see, or maybe you can't, oh, it was the red mica in this one. It is kind of difficult to tell on this one, on the camera. I'm looking in the viewfinder as I show you this to try and see if you can see it. It's kind of difficult to see the red mica on this one, but the pattern on this one, it's actually a tonic dye. I've got it here still. It's a tonic dye, one of their mosaic ones. I cut it from Funky Foam and then I press the Funky Foam onto the jelly plate before I take the print. So it kind of acts as like a stamp, but because I've cut it from Funky Foam, I don't have to be too precious about it getting paint all over it, which is brilliant because, you know, who wants to stop jelly printing so that they can clean their stamps and stuff. So that's the orange. And then the red is called Fiery Red, and it kind of has almost a bluey kind of mica to it, which you can see showing through. This is just another stencil, a triangular sort of stencil, again where I place the stencil on the paint, press through it with a piece of scrap paper, then remove the stencil and then pressed my image into what was left on the jelly plate. And then finally we have the sort of white and black kind of colours. So this has picked up a little bit of the excess colour that was left on the jelly plate, but you can see from this angle you're just really seeing that as just white. So this is the playful pink colour, but you're seeing that really is just white. But if you get the angle right, which I'm not sure if I'll be able to get it on the camera, I can see it over here definitely. There you go. If you get that angle right, you can see the gorgeous pink mica showing up on the black. It's much easier to see in real life, or in person. But that's the kind of gorgeous effect that you get. And then this one is the fancy black, which has actually picked up some of the playful pink on this side of it. But you can see it gives a really dark kind of neutral tone. And then you can see that gorgeous gold mica in there. The fancy black, it kind of just shows up all over the place because it's black. So it kind of doesn't change as much as the other colours because the actual paint is already black. But it is a stunning, gorgeous gold colour. Really, really nice. It's almost like an antique-y kind of gold. And you can actually use hints of that in with the other colours to give them a more muted kind of look as well, which I'll show you on some of the jelly prints that I'd done further down the line of playing with these as well. So that was just my first kind of test. I just wanted to see all the different colours and have a sort of a good look at how they showed up differently on the black and the white. And I'll make all of these into cards eventually, and pretty much all I will do is either trim this down with a paper trimmer or cut it with a stitched rectangle die, and I'll just add a die cut sentiment or a little stamped sentiment or a sentiment made with my Dymo label maker, just to finish them off, because I think you don't really need to do much else to them. And can you imagine giving someone all of these 10 in like a box that you've made as a little gift, so that they've got little thank you cards or get well cards or birthday cards to send out to people? I think that'd be really nice. So that was my first kind of big experiment with these. Then my next kind of playing, it was the same time as doing these, while I had the jelly plate out and I had all the colours out and everything. If you saw my Rolodex or the rotating memoir up close video, you'll have seen me talk about this, which is just a normal Rolodex, and I'm kind of doing this, kind of making it into a Rolodex art journal, so that on the days where I have to be on the computer and I don't have enough time to craft, I could just complete one of these cards, and then I still feel like I've done a little bit of crafting. Or it's a good way of using up any leftovers that you might have hanging around. Like I often have one random little extra die cut or some scraps of a specialty card or something that if I put it in my scrap box, it will just get lost forever. So this sort of project is really nice for just adding anything on it you want to, really. And eventually I'm going to have it out on my desk, and each page is going to have like an inspirational, uplifting quote or a song lyric, or just something that I've heard and I've thought, oh, that's a really nice sort of sentiment or something. And then the idea is I can just sort of spin it on whatever day and have a different one showing. And the Rolodex that I brought has 1,000 cards on it, so it's going to take me quite a long time to actually finish it, but I think it's going to be a really cool project to work on over like the next 5 years or something. But anyway, so these are all little Rolodex cards from that, and I was just having so much fun playing with all of these and mixing in the acrylic paints that I told you about earlier. This was where I was mixing in all of these different colours, so that I had a mixture of this is just the iridescent colours. Again, I liked that idea that I was doing on the card, so I wanted to have one of these cards done with it, and that's just using it on the jelly plate but through a stencil to get that gorgeous leafy design on there. Again, another similar one, using that same concept, maybe adding a bit of other texture from other impressions as well. This one, you can start to see some of that muted kind of colour, where I've got some of the fancy black on there, but also some of the blue tones and a little bit of maybe the green in there as well to give that kind of a look. Just really having fun and playing with it, and mixing loads of different colours together. Some of these prints I actually deliberately set up the plate to take them, and other ones are leftovers from whatever other background I was creating at that time. And some of them are even just me brayering off the paint that's left on my brayer after I've loaded up the jelly plate as well. So just loads of different ones that I was playing with. Here you can see that blue mica really showing through on the rose. Just loads of random backgrounds, so I've got them all there ready to do something with at some point. And you can see here it was a flat colour that I brayered in the background, and then I've used some of the iridescent colours as the leaves. This is using a lot of the darker colours on that one as well. So just loads of different bits and pieces that I was playing with. But you can see how much I was loving them because I've got such a big wad of them. And this is the great thing about all these kind of paints. Get all of these inky, painty kind of backgroundy things done when you're in the mood to do that, and then you've got it all there to work with later on. Like, you know, these doesn't have to be little Rolodex cards here. This could be A6 pieces of card that you could then just trim down and add them to a card blank and add a simple sentiment on as well. It's just, for me, I wanted to do a load of these cards with all these kind of techniques on, but you can easily apply all of this to your card making, or just have fun in an art journal. You know, just get one of the Arteza watercolour books and just have fun printing on all of the pages, and then all you have to do is come in and finish them off. You've got all of the background sort of started for you. So, as well as doing all of those cool things on the jelly plate, I have got some more jelly plate stuff to show you later on as well, but I was also just using them out of the tube and using them as an acrylic paint as well. So I did this one where I did a rainbow. I just wanted to show how cool of a rainbow that you get, and this is just using the iridescent colours, so you really get that gorgeous metallic iridescent kind of look to it. And I wanted to show how gorgeously you get that rainbow from all of the colours that are in the set of 10. So that's missing out the fancy black and the playful pink, but that's just showing a gorgeous rainbow. And then I had some left after doing this, so I took a piece of graph paper and just did the same thing on that, because I was thinking you could then rip a piece of this off and add it to this and build up a card that way, and you know, all sorts of different things that you can do with them. Then I wanted to show that kind of a rainbow but on a dark colour, and you can see here how this is just a navy blue piece of card. It's not even black, but you still get the other mica colour showing because it's a really dark colour. That is the same order of the paints, although I've added the playful pink at the bottom, but that's exactly the same order of the paints. But you can see how different they look being on a darker colour. You can really get more of like a moody effect to a rainbow if you use them like this. And actually, because the different mica colour is showing through, you could also rearrange these in a different order. Like you might want to swap these two around and maybe even move these around as well to get a better rainbow colour. But I applied these thickly and thinly so that you could see how when it's thicker, even on a darker colour, you're going to see more of the actual colour that's in the bottle. But it's when you thin it out more so that the dark can really reflect off the mica, it's when you get the other colour that's in there. So I just wanted to show that as well. And that's the fancy black there with that gorgeous goldy black colour. Then I've sort of done a lot of experimenting with different ways that I would usually use acrylic paints, so that you can see some other applications of how to use these paints. If you don't have a jelly plate, you obviously don't have to use them with a jelly plate. It's just I do love any excuse to get to play with my jelly plate, but you can just use them with a regular paintbrush as well. So this is a little piece that I coloured with the new 120 pen set of the Arteza Everblend art markers, which will be another up close video soon, but I thought I would embellish it and accent it using these iridescent acrylics. So if I can tip it in the light properly, you can see all the little accents of like dots and stripy effects on the feathers and splatters in the background, just adding that gorgeous little touch of that you don't notice like this, but as soon as you start tilting the card, you really start to see them all. I really love that kind of thing on a card because it just gives the recipient, they're like, oh, actually that's got really cool colours and stuff on it, and they, you know, they don't really notice it straight away. So I think this is going to be a really great use for these colours as well. Then I was just showing, this was actually applying it with one of these Nouveau silicone spatulas, and just I squeezed some out onto here and then scraped it across like this to show another different kind of application of the paints. And just look how gorgeous all that mica-y effect is. But I thought I wanted to see how well they hold their texture, and they do hold their texture really nicely actually, and it feels really lovely. It's really nice and smooth and plasticky, like a normal acrylic paint as well. Having the iridescent doesn't change that gorgeous plasticness that you get from an acrylic paint, and I reckon that this will die cut really well. I might actually show you that at the end of the video. I'll keep this out to try and remind me to show you that. But once I'd done this, I was like, I wonder if you can do this onto a non-stick mat and then peel them off. So this is the non-stick mat that I work on, which is the one that came with my tonic media mat. And you can do a thicker layer of the paint and it will peel off, and you can stick them on like that. You can even make little round embellishments, almost like enamel dots as well. This was using the fancy black, oops, and you can kind of see how you could actually make that into a little embellishment to stick on. And then the main one that I've done is this piece. It actually got stuck to here annoyingly. I sort of ripped the other one, but look how gorgeous that looks. That's going from the yellow to the orange to the red, and I reckon that this will be able to be die cut as well. So I might leave that until the end of the video and try and show you how to die cut these kind of things. When you're doing this with acrylic pouring, they actually call it skins, so I presume that's what you would call this, although, you know, it wasn't leftover paint. I deliberately did that, but I deliberately made it so it would fit nicely on an A6 kind of a card, so I didn't have to trim off the edges. I like that natural edge that you get, and then you could die cut a heart or something from the centre, which I think will look really lovely. So I'll put those to one side and hopefully remember to show you that at the end of the video. Then this was just applying it thinly onto the card in that sort of just a messy brushstrokey kind of a background. That other one did stick to it, but I'm sure if I made this into a card I could easily add embellishments to hide those two little rips on there as well. Then I wanted to show, I actually just had some leftover paint on my glass mat, but I wanted to show how you can add water to these and get a kind of watercolour-y look from them and an inky, messy sort of background, but you still have that mica. It's not all over the place, but in the thicker areas it is still evident. So I'm sorry that this doesn't look a nice purpley pink like it does in real life, but you can still see that purple mica sort of catching on those thicker areas as well. So it does give a really cool watery background as well. And this kind of design, you could then come back in with the same colour in a more concentrated form and stamp or stencil over this to start a background as well. And then I also had a bit of the fancy black left over, so I used that on a piece of leftover graph paper as well, and you can see that gorgeous gold sheen, and you can see how it's more concentrated in the areas where it's less watered down. Then another way that I like to use acrylic paints is on top of texture paste and like watering it down a little bit. So this was using it in a watered down fashion and adding it to a textured paste piece that I'd done a while ago and I just found in my scrap box. And then down here I actually started coming back in with the red and highlighting the areas, like using a embellishment mousse or a gilding polish or something. So I'll leave this to one side and I'll show you that as well, because I could add some of the black on here to help the pattern pop out even more, so I'll come back to that. Then these two, I don't think I did a video on it, but I did. It was in one of my Polka Doodles up close videos. I had a card where I said that I'd used acrylic paint and watercolours on a background on the jelly plate to get a cool effect. So I wanted to try it with these paints. So this one is using, you do a thin layer of the acrylic paint and then you take your watercolour on a wide flat brush and paint on some brush strokes, and then you take a print of it, and this is the kind of cool effect that you get. You still get that mica-y sheen in there, but you get the cool bubbling up effect of having the watercolour on the jelly plate and the kind of brush stroke sort of effect as well. And then I wanted to see if that would work with the, this was the Arteza watercolours, the 36 half pan set. And then I wanted to see if it worked with the Arteza gouache as well, and it works with that too. Obviously it's picked up other little bits off of the plate, but you can really get that cool movement of the paint, of the gouache or acrylic paint from your brush stroke. But if you had just used the gouache or acrylic straight onto the jelly plate without any acrylic paint, it would have completely beaded up and not been distinguishable as like a brush stroke. But because you add that thin layer of acrylic paint onto the plate first, you get this cool brush stroke kind of effect staying. It's sort of held in place. So I wanted to show that and see if that worked as well. Then really simple ways of using the paints is just through a stencil. I did actually just apply this with my finger, so it went a little bit blobby in some places, but you can use a piece of cut and dry foam like these little pieces, or you can use the like blending tools with the foam on it. You can easily use that to apply the paint through a stencil as well, or makeup brushes or any kind of spongy thing that you have as well. And that just gives a gorgeous shiny pattern on top of a background. This was just, I think it was just Distress inks actually, and I'd put them onto that white mat and sprayed it with water to make it blobby, and then I twisted the card in it to get that cool motion. So I just used the leafy stencil over the top. Then I got a few examples of stamping with them, and the stamping, it gives like, there's really like little bits of sparkle in there, which looks really cool. It's really, this one's kind of more subtle because of the colour that I've used. I was actually using a mixture of the yellow, the orange and the red to stamp this design. But you can see how it still keeps that crisp detail of this stamp. And there's multiple ways of applying acrylic paint to a stamp. You can either use a brayer and brayer it on, or you can brayer the paint onto your surface and press your stamp into the brayered paint and lift it off. You can do the same thing but onto a jelly plate and lift it off of the jelly plate. Or what I was actually doing, because I didn't have my jelly plate out at that point, I was just taking a wide flat brush and putting the acrylic paint on this and then dragging it across the stamp to get the paint onto the stamp, and that worked just as well. So that was that's neatly stamping with it, so just as the paint is stamping with it, but there was still some paint left on the stamp, so this was adding a little bit of water to the stamp and then stamping twice. I got 2 more impressions out of it, and you can still see hints of the iridescent look of the paint in that as well, which is really lovely. And then I did a blue version too, just to give you another example of stamping with it. I think I was using a couple of the different bluey purple colours for that one. That looks really lovely, and you can see how well they stamp with the detail. They're a nice kind of more towards the heavy body kind of an acrylic paint, but they're really, really gorgeous. Then because this colour looks white from where you are, but has that little tint of pink, I wondered how it would look if you kind of added a really thin layer over a background that you'd already done, like what, I just wanted to know what it would do really. So I had a little bit of this on my glass cutting mat, put it on my brayer, got the brayer covered in it, and then just brayed over this little background that I'd done ages ago, which was just printing with a stencil. And you can see how it's just sort of catching there, so it just gives a really subtle look to it. And because this is acrylic, and when you use a brayer and you're just using it from a glass cutting mat, which is a hard surface, it doesn't completely cover everywhere, so I could then come back in on top of this with some other kind of inks, and you'd probably be able to see the ink would catch in some areas and not in others, because the acrylic paint would kind of repel it, and you could get a really cool effect that way. So I might even show you that as well. I'll leave that to one side. And then because that worked so well, this was a dark purpley kind of background that I had done, and I wanted to see if it would work with one of the darker colours too, just adding it in a really thin layer with a brayer, and that looks really gorgeous as well. So that kind of, I got that more even because you could tell where you were going because it was a darker colour. Okay, then going back to some more jelly plate stuff that I was doing. Sorry that this video is kind of all over the place, but I just have so many ideas and I kind of want to show you them all so that it might give you some inspiration of projects you might want to try and stuff. So I hope you're enjoying it. So, ages and ages and ages ago, Tim Holtz brought out this tissue paper that had printed patterns on it, and I'd wanted it for ages, and then like a year ago I finally caved and I brought a roll of it, and then it just been sitting there and I hadn't actually used it because I was like, it's too precious now. I waited so long to get it, and then I finally brought it. But anyway, I finally opened the roll and was actually using it on the jelly plate, and it works really lovely with these paints. You might be wondering what you're going to do with all these like little jelly prints that you've done and stuff on tissue and graph paper and printer paper and all sorts. I'll show you a project that I've actually started using all of these bits and pieces, and this tissue paper made that project, so I'm definitely going to be using this kind of thing in the future. And I don't think you even would have to use a brought tissue paper like with a printed pattern on. I reckon if you just had like cheapy white tissue paper from Poundland or something and you stamped all over it with whatever stamps you have in your stash using archival ink, I think it would work just as lovely as well. So obviously I used one of the little pieces for the project that I'll show you, but I've got a few others where I was just trying out some of the different colour combinations of the paints, and look at the gorgeous effects that you get. It's really, really pretty. Oh yeah, this is why this one looks different. I was thinking, why does that look so different compared to the others? Well, originally I thought, well, surely I'm going to want to put this down so that the black is facing up, because I don't want to obliterate all of that. But then I was like, when I pulled it off, I was like, oh, that's not really going to make sense, because now I've got a gorgeous shiny side that I was going to use to stick down so that I could still see the pattern. So the other ones, I put the black printed side onto the jelly plate, and it looks so much better and works better as well. But fortunately, because these are an iridescent kind of translucenty paint, you can still see all that printing. It's just more faded than the other ones, because obviously you've put the paint on the other side of the tissue, so you've also got the sort of opacity of the tissue as well, blocking the black printing. But it does look really nice this way. If you just had normal acrylic paints and you did that on the back of this kind of tissue, it would look gorgeous. It's just that it's iridescent, so the iridescence isn't coming through, but just the colour behind it does look really lovely. So the other ones that I've done, I was smarter and actually put the printed side onto the paint so that you had the darker outline kind of showing of the black printing, and then you have the iridescence over the top. So this one was using the fancy black, and yeah, I was doing this on the jelly plate so that I got a really nice even coverage of the paint on there. And then this was using the blues and the purpley colours. I actually did a mixture, like an ombre on the paint of them all, and then made sure I brayed over it a few times to get a really nice blended kind of look, and then you get this stunning sort of finish to it. Then this one was a yellowy orangey one. Again, I blended to get a really good finish to it. But actually this piece, it's got the same arrow in there, but you can see that looks just as bright as that one. But when I show you this with the side that I actually put the paint on, you can see the difference. If you wanted it more muted, then by all means print on the back of it, and then you get that more muted look. But if you print on the front of it, you still get the iridescence, but you get a sharper black image as well. So, but you can really, it really picks up that iridescent. It's really lovely. And adding this to like collage-y things as well, it looks so good. And then this one was using some of the lighter colours. I think there's a hint of green on there, and then it's got purpley, pinky bluey kind of colours. I think this could have been the playful pink down here. That's just a really subtle version of it. Then I've got loads of other jelly prints to show you as well. It was just me messing around really, but I just thought I'd show you them, just doing different ombres of colours, and this was just me cleaning off my brayer. But look how lovely that looks with that gorgeous iridescence. So you don't waste any of your paint, because this was all the same thing. This was me, so I added the paints to the jelly plate, I brayed them on so I could work on the jelly plate and get this effect, but then I didn't waste what was on the brayer, and I brayed that off onto here to also get a second background. So for this, you would usually waste this, but you can get an extra background, and these will now work perfectly together. If I trimmed one of these down to be the background, I could then die cut pieces out of the other one, or rip little strips of the other one and place them on top to get a cohesive look with exactly the same ombre of colours as well, which is lovely. Then again, but this was using the yellow, the orange and the red, but I also had a little bit of the fancy black. I think it was left on my brayer actually. So you can see how adding a little bit of the fancy black, it kind of mutes the colours a little bit, gives you a little bit more of a less vibrant kind of tone, because all the colours are really vibrant, which is lovely, but if you wanted a slightly more grungy look, just use the fancy black and you can really get that more of a muted look to it as well. And then this was more of the, I think there was just a little bit of this paint left on the jelly plate, and then I added a bit more of the fancy black and brayed it on again, and then lifted that off to get this really kind of muted, it almost looks like a light pastel orange and a pastel-y pinky peachy colour under there. So even taking off some of the layers on the jelly plate as well sort of lightens up the colour too. This is just leftovers. This is just like cleaning off my plate and stuff and getting that sort of leftovery kind of a pattern. This was using the pinks and the purples with the fancy black as well. Again, it's more of a muted sort of a background. Then I've got loads of different bits and pieces here. This was, again, those kind of colours. They were I probably did them the same, like one after each other, just adding more fancy black to pull this off. But yeah, really, really gorgeous effects that you can get. I've got loads of these pieces, which were all where I was brayering off. This would all be wasted. This is like me brayering off 3 or 4 different brayers of paint. But look at the cool, I don't know if you can, yeah, you can kind of see it on the camera. It's just so lovely. I just didn't want to get rid of it. I really think chopping that down or collaging it into an art journal can really make the most of these kind of things. And this is all just on printer paper, so it's perfect for collaging into an art journal because you're not adding too much bulk into the pages. This one as well, I was going to add this to the sort of collagey project that I'll show you, but I decided I liked it too much as it was. I think cutting that down and making it a card background would be really lovely. This was just all waste, this one. This was pressing it onto the jelly plate to get the last of the paint off, and then when I wanted to add this leafy design with the fancy black, I was using this piece to press off the excess onto there. So, you know, don't waste all of your little scrap papers. This was just me cleaning the brayer, and I decided I loved that patchy look so much that I didn't even want to add anything else to that. This was just pulling off what was left over on the plate, I think, after this one. So you can see how they're sort of the opposite of each other. Oh, this one looks lovely. This was sort of building up a load of different scraps, and this one. You can see here, this was when I was doing some of those Rolodex cards, because you can see the sort of excess shapes on here as well, but just building up and building up. And if you keep your scrap papers, if you keep like cool toned colours like blues and greens and stuff, and then more warm toned colours like separate, use a different scrap piece of paper for each of them, you build up these really cool designs with all the different colours as well. So I've got those to play with, and then I also did a little bit more on the graph paper as well, and this was using some of the normal Arteza acrylics under there to get that green base and stuff, and then using some of the iridescent colours on top of that. So that was a lot of examples of how I've been playing with this. So I'll just tidy this up and then I'll come back. Okay, so this is how I've been using some of the collagey elements that I've created on the jelly plate. And this is one of those like traveller's notebook kind of things. I got it in Hobbycraft last December. They'd reduced them, and it just had a couple of books in a cover piece, and you have this piece of elastic that keeps them in. And I've been working on a couple of pages in here, just playing with different bits and pieces. And then look at this, look how cool that looks. That's just using a load of the different scraps and stuff. So this piece was me brayering off. When I had too much paint on my jelly plate, I just brayed off a big section of that gorgeous iridescent paint. This is some of that tissue that I had the greeny and the bluey colours on. This is a scrap piece of printer paper where I had been stamping off. So I'd been using my stamps on the jelly plate because I wanted that pattern on the jelly plate, but then instead of wasting the paint that I picked up, I stamped it all over this scrap piece of paper. And I've also got a piece of the scrap graph paper in there as well, which I had been using to press through the openings of a stencil to remove the paint when I've been using them in that kind of application as well. And I was just using the Yoo-hoo glue stick to stick these down, and it works really good, or really well. It's not too much of a lumpy glue stick. It goes on really nice and smoothly, so you don't get wrinkles and you don't get lumps of glue underneath your paper as well. But I really love how this turned out. I was doing this yesterday evening. I just went through that whole pile that I just showed you, picked out 4 or 5 different pieces that were all the same kind of colour scheme, and then all I did was just randomly rip them into different shapes, either ripping them in a rough kind of shape just by hand, or holding the paper against the edge of a ruler and ripping to give a neater kind of ripped edge, like down here. And then I just literally started plonking them all over the page, and you get this really cool look. I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to finish this page yet. I might add some more stamping, I might add some 3D products on there to add some like actual physical texture. And then I'll probably just add a quote using alphabet stickers, or maybe doing some handwriting, or, you know, all sorts of different things, maybe die cuts as well. So this is how I'm going to use all these pieces that I've just been creating on the jelly plate, just to create backgrounds in art journals. But you don't have to just do it as an art journal. Take an A4 piece of cardstock and cover it in all these bits and pieces, and then chop it up to fit the fronts of the cards that you like making. You could get 3 DLs out of it, or 4 A6 or A2 kind of size cards, or 2 square cards, or 2 5x7, 2 A5s. Loads of different ways that you can use all of your scraps to make some really cool funky looking backgrounds. And a lot of this paint that I used on these pieces would have been wasted, because you'd usually just roll it off on a scrap piece of paper and then throw the piece of paper away. But if you kind of think about what you're doing a bit more, you can actually keep all of these waste pieces and create something really beautiful out of them as well. So I wanted to show you that. Then I have one more really cool finished project to show you, and then I'll come back to these ones and show you the other bits that I was going to play with on them, just to give you the ideas. So this, I filmed this as a separate video as well, so it'll be one of my sped up videos. This is one of Arteza's little watercolour pads. You can see the word Arteza sort of in there. They come in a pack of 3, and I showed them in my Twi marker up close video. And I think did I say in that video? I think I did say in that video that I wanted to decorate the front of this. I'm actually giving this one to my mum, because she was after one of these sketchbooks, and I was like, do you mind if I decorate the cover for you? So I just had fun decorating it with loads of gorgeous 3D flowers. You'll see in that video when it's up, I used crackle paste through a stencil. I've used some drywall tape. I've used bubble wrap. Bubble wrap looks so cool with this kind of application. There's gems, there's metal embellishments, there's buttons, there's paper flowers, metal flowers, plastic flowers, metal leaves, little resin embellishments, die cuts from Tonic, the media dies cut from the thick kind of cardstock. And then all you do is let all of that dry. Once you've stuck it all on, it doesn't matter what colour anything is, you just let it all dry, and then completely cover it in black or white gesso depending. I wanted to use black because I wanted the mica colours to show through from the iridescent paints. And then once the gesso's dry, just bring in all of your different colours of paint. This hardly took any of that iridescent paint. You literally just need a dry paintbrush and tiny little pea-sized drops of the different colours that you're going to use, and then you can just sort of dry brush it on, and it just gives such a fantastic look. I really love how this turned out, and you'll be able to see my process behind it in that video when I've edited that as well. So really lovely, I really do like this. And when I'd finished it, I just thought it needed a little bit of contrast because it was getting quite dark, so I just splattered on some of the Arteza white acrylic paint. I just, again, like a pea-sized, added a bit of water to it, mixed it up, and then flicked it on with a paintbrush, and then you get all these cool little splatters all over it. But I think this is my favourite way that I've used these paints so far. Really, really gorgeous. And this is like all stuff that was just lying around. I mean, because we've all got so much like time on our hands at the moment being at home, just collect all the bits of random stuff that you've got around your house. Find a canvas, a notebook, just a piece of cardboard as well. I've done a lot of mine just on pieces of cardboard. Stick it all on, paint it with black gesso, and then have fun decorating it with all your fancy acrylic paints as well. It's just such a cool project to do as well, and it doesn't take too long really. It's not many steps to get this kind of a project out of it. So I wanted to show that as well. And then let's show what I was talking about with these kind of things as well. And I've got one more thing to show you too. But let's try, I'm going to try and use the black so it's really evident. And all I was doing to add the colour back on top of this is you just take a tiny bit of the paint, more than that. Oh, can you even see that? I just did that out of frame, didn't I? Yes, here, tiny little bit of paint. Dab your finger in it and sort of dab off the excess, so you've hardly got anything on there really. And then all you're doing is just gently, as if you were using an embellishment mousse or a gilding polish, just gently rub over the top. And I mean, adding this black is going to give this kind of a more of a grungy look, which is actually pretty cool. I think that's looking quite nice. And then this is how you can just bring out all that detail from the texture paste that you kind of not really lost, but it's not as prominent as if it was still like white texture paste on a coloured piece of cardstock. You can add like as much or as little as you want to. And then to finish this off, I think I would water down this and splash it on. So whilst I've still got a bit of that paint out, I might as well actually do that to show you as well how easy it is to water it down and splash it on. So just a tiny bit of water and then a paintbrush. I like to use small round ones for doing splatters. The detail brushes from Arteza are maybe a little bit too small, but it depends on what kind of project you're doing really. If you're working on something really tiny, then you want a tiny brush to get the tiny little splatters. But this kind of size, which is a number 2, is my favourite for this sort of thing. And then so you just load up the brush and then tap it to get the little splatters onto your background. And I think this just sort of ties that darker tone across the card. So you've got more of a grungy kind of look to that background now. So that's finishing that one off. I'll just wash my paintbrush and come back. Okay, so I got this one here that I said that I'd brayered on that playful pink over the top of this stencil design that I'd done. I'm pretty sure when I did that stencil design I was using the water reactive dye inks from Spectrum Noir, so I'm going to use the yellow to ink blend over this to try and show where the paint hasn't made contact with the paper basically. I don't think it has made contact all over, so I think this should look quite cool. So you just want to ink blend over the top just as you usually would, and then the iridescent paint has just sort of, it's just going to react as a resist agent kind of thing in some of the places where it didn't catch the paper, and then where it did come into contact with the paper, we should just be able to wipe this excess ink off, and it should just leave that gorgeous playful pink colour. So you can just be as heavy-handed or as light-handed as you want. Because I'm using yellow, kind of want to go a bit more heavy-handed so you can really see it on the camera. And then you just want to take a bit of kitchen roll and then buff over it. There we go, it did work how I thought it would. So you can see all of that cool texture now where the paint hadn't made contact just here or down the edges of the panel, but all of the stuff where the paint did touch the paper when I was brayering it is all protected now. So that gives a really cool grungy kind of effect to your card. Just gives it a really different kind of a look. So I'm glad I showed you that as well. So there's that kind of thing that you can do with these paints. Obviously most acrylic paints, or every acrylic paint should do that. Maybe not if it's a matte acrylic, like a really matte kind of one, it might actually pick up the ink. But with these, especially with the Playful Pink, because it's so like sheer, it sort of protects what's underneath without altering the colour of it too much, basically. Yeah, so it really reacts as like a clear, or acts as like a clear resist on your project. So I'm going to show you this with the die cutting as well, because I want to see if this is going to work too. And then the final thing that I might, I'll crack out my jelly plate and show you this as well, because I mentioned this in my up close video for the 60 set of acrylic paints from Arteza. And a lot of you, or at least a few people, asked if I could do a video showing how to do the image transfer technique, and I tried it with these and it worked. I mean, it's obviously it's quite light because these are kind of lighter colours, but it did work. So you can do this image transfer technique with these colours. I think for the video I'm going to show you with a darker colour of just a normal flat acrylic paint, or unless no, maybe I'll try the fancy black actually. I'm going to try the fancy black, so I'll show you that in a minute as well, but I wanted to show you the die cutting first. So let's find a die. Okay, I haven't got many dies out at the moment, so I'll just go with a basic circle shape just to show you how this is going to work. And I actually want to see if these crosses will indent into it as well. So I think I'm going to do this one kind of down here so that you could use this portion as an aperture, but also use this portion that's going to have the stitching detail on. And then I think I might use this size one on here, I think. Which way up do I want to use it? Maybe this way up. So I'm going to give these two a try. I haven't done this before, so I'm hoping it will work. I'm pretty sure it will. I have die cut this kind of thing before, not these paints, but you know, this kind of thing where I've spread out a medium onto a matte and then peeled it off. Okay, one sec, I've got to move my stuff. Okay, got my machine. This is the Tonic Tangerine die cutting machine, by the way, as well, if you haven't seen it before. So I think I might want to sandwich this between some copy paper just in case the pressure makes it stick to my plates. So all you want to do is just take a folded piece of printer paper, place it inside and then fold it over and then run it through like that, just in case. Oh, it's stuck a little tiny bit, not too much, and then, oh good, that didn't stick, so that's good. So now we have our little skin with an aperture in it, so we could add this, or we could actually add it onto there. Could put it on there if you wanted to. That looks quite nice actually. So you can just add it onto whatever project with the little aperture in it, and hopefully this will come out easily. Oh wow, that looks so good. That looks so brilliant, and that is just acrylic paint. Oh, it's okay, it's got a piece of paper on the back of it because I cut it through the scrap paper. Oh, okay. That's kind of difficult to get off now, but that looks so cool. That could be like a sunset or something, and there's sun in it. Oh, that looks lovely. And the little crosses have come out so well as well. I reckon you can get this apart. It's just the pressure of the little crosses pushing into the paint, pushing it into the paper that's making it stick, I think. So you can get it off. There we go. And you can still see all those little crosses in there as well, which is really cool. And that is just a little thin bit of acrylic paint, so that's a really cool way of using these as well. Then let's cut the other one. Just put it about there, I think. So again, this can be an aperture on a card, but it can also be a circle as well. So that die cuts absolutely perfectly, just having it layered a little bit more thickly onto a piece of cardstock. So there we go, that works really, really nicely, and you still get that gorgeous cross effect. And you could even inlay that back in, twisted round if you wanted to as well, for a different kind of look. Or you could use one of your jelly printed backgrounds using the same colours and add that as your focal element with the sentiment inside it as well. So loads of different ways you can use that. Then the final thing I'm going to show you, sorry if this video is really long, I'm not 100% sure how long I've been filming for, but I think it's quite a while. So this is my gel press plate. I've just got the 6x6 one, and then I usually put it onto a 6x6 big acrylic block, but because I'm just going to show you one thing, I'm just going to leave it on its backing piece of acetate, although I am going to get a piece of scrap paper and put it underneath so you can see the white underneath it. So let's find an image in the magazine. So I explained in that other video, the best magazine I found, I'm not that keen on using like faces and stuff in my art journaling, so I wanted to go for something that doesn't have faces in, so I went for an interior design magazine. So I got the World of Interiors, and this paper works really nicely because you kind of need a really sort of, it's a more high quality magazine sort of paper, and it's got to be the right kind of glossiness. So you're gonna, if you want to try this technique, you're going to have to experiment with different magazines to get something that works really nicely for you. And you're also going to have to experiment with the amount of paint that you put on your jelly plate, because that really does make a difference with this technique working or not. So let me find something in here that I think is going to work really nicely. You need something that's nice and contrasting, like good contrasting colours. Doesn't have to be like black and white contrasting, but something that's going to show up really nicely. And I'm also trying to pick something that I don't want to use on another project, but maybe this would look really good. So all you do is rip that out of your magazine. You could do it a bit neater than I just did that. And then you're going to want, actually, I've got a piece of graph paper here. I just really like working on graph paper. I think it just gives something extra to the print because you've already got a kind of pattern on it. So I'm going to use this piece to print onto, and then I'm going to use this piece to brayer onto, because we don't want to have too much paint on here. The method won't work if you have too much paint on here. So you want to be really minimal with the amount of paint that you're using. So if I shake that up and then just squirt out a small amount as you can, so that's literally a tiny little pea's amount, and then you want to brayer this out all over the plate. So because I put so little on, I might not have to brayer any excess off, which is good. So you can see there I've got a really thin coverage on that, and then you want to take your magazine, press that on, make sure it goes on nice and flat, and then rub over it. And this might not work. You do kind of have to do trial and error, and it was a few days ago that I did this technique last, so you kind of forget exactly how to get it to work. But hopefully, oh yes, some of it's worked. Okay, so I'm going to just do it on the plain side actually, because I have a feeling this is going to be quite light and you might not be able to see it if I did it on the graph paper side. So you just want to press all over this to get the print to pick up. Now some of it might not have been enough contrast, but the words definitely worked. So you can see there how the words worked on this one. The rest of the image wasn't quite enough contrast, but let me show you again. If I show you some with this wording, this sort of wording works really well. But this is how that technique works. You kind of just have to experiment a bit, and it does work like, say you tried it 10 times with these paints, you probably get a 50% chance of it working. But with the other acrylic paints that Arteza have, their normal acrylic paints, you probably got more of like an 8 in 10 chance of it working. I seem to have a higher success rate basically when I was using the other paints than when I've been using these ones. But obviously that kind of makes sense really, because these are more of a fancy accent kind of a paint rather than a application kind of a paint for doing techniques like this sort of thing with. Oh, I'm not sure that worked that well either. I'll have to show you this with the other acrylic paints as well. Try and pick it up, see if anything worked. Yeah, didn't work that great. So I will get the, let's do phthalo blue, because that's quite a nice dark colour. And then I'm going to have to get another page out. So let's pick something. There are quite a few things in here that would work, but I kind of want to use them for other projects that I want to work on. So I've got this, I don't know whether that's going to work. I can see if that'll work. I obviously had used the other pictures that were on this page with this man. So let's try. Let's see if I can get him to work. So we'll use some of the phthalo blue. I'm going to use a bit more this time and just spray some of it off, because maybe I wasn't using quite enough of the other paint. But it really is trial and error, so don't give up on the first time if you want to get this to work. It's trial and error between the type of paint and the type of paper and the amount of paint. But if you know that the Arteza acrylics work, then you're only just working on the amount of paint and the type of paper. Okay, so I don't know if I just rubbed off too much now. I'm second guessing myself because I'm filming it. Okay, I'm going to try and add a little bit more again. Whoop. Now I've rubbed off way too much. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm going to go heavier with the paint again. If you're filming it, it doesn't seem to work as well as if you're just playing around by yourself. Okay, hopefully that will work. So we want to press this onto there. You can only use each piece once, which is why I'm sort of being precious about which pages I use, because you kind of obliterate the page after you've done this to it. And I don't think that's working. I have a feeling all that did was just pick up the paint onto the picture. Yep, that didn't work at all. Well, I'm really doing a good job of showing you how this works, aren't I? Okay, one more try. I'm just going to use the writing on the back of this piece to try it again. I think maybe it's I'm not using enough paint, because I know if you use too much it doesn't work, but I've been using like really little, so maybe it's just not enough paint. I don't know if that was too much paint now. Oh my gosh. That didn't work either. Trying it one more time with Payne's Grey this time, because I know I've used this one before and it worked, so. I've got to find something else to print though. Let's try this piece. This has got a nice contrast between the red and the white there, so hopefully this will actually show you how it works. Maybe I'm not putting enough pressure on it as well. There we go. I promise you, when I've been doing this off camera just by myself, it's like worked so many times. And then as soon as I try and do it on camera, I've been like trying it for 10 minutes. Okay. Ta-da! That's how it works. It does work. That was using Payne's Grey though, so Payne's Grey definitely works. But I'm pretty sure other colours should work as well. But yeah, darker colours seem to work better. But that's how you can get those kind of prints off of your jelly plate. But it does work with the iridescent ones, because I managed to get this one to work. But that was a really good contrast between the writing and the background. So I think you do really need a good contrast to get it to properly work. So anyway, that last bit was a kind of a little bit of a fail, but I hope you enjoyed this up close video looking at the iridescent acrylic paints from Arteza. And stay tuned, because there will be another up close video coming soon showing you the 120 pen set of Everblend alcohol pens from Arteza as well. So I hope this video gave you a bit of inspiration of how to use these kinds of paints, and maybe some different applications of actual acrylic paints that you might already have as well. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again in the next video. Bye! Oh, and don't forget to enter the Arteza competition too. Bye!